Donny strides across the marble floors commandingly. Deep in thought, looking ahead, he thinks,
Fuck, there's that girl again. The one who keeps asking me about that Ukraine report. Don't look at her. You don't need any more trouble.
Starts following the patterns on the carpet until the kitten heels have passed him by with a purposeful gait, at which point he becomes aware he's started shuffling as though he's trying to clear snow off the teak decking. He looks around and breathes a sigh of relief, picks up his feet again and moves to the Oval Office where a nice man holds the door open for him.
Thank you, Diego, my friend. How's the family? How's Danny settling in at the new school?
Very well, Mr. President. He'll be fine as long as he doesn't need his dad for his physics homework.
Well, you let me know if there's anything I can do, really, anything at all. I got the best score in my physics class.
Donny smiles and turns to look at the grey head sat down, all half turning to look at him, while shaded young men stand to attention around the perimeter, trying to feign a look of nonchalance with hands tucked in their trouser pockets or resting on their blazer buttons.
Seriously, who wears sunglasses indoors?
Donny thinks. Good to have you back, sir, Diego adds without hesitation.
Good to be back, Diego.
Donny fires back, finding his breath return to his chest. Are you pardoning this young man as well? Says a rotund Republican whose charcoal suit looked like it has been handed down since the revolution.
No, he's...
What's he done? Asked the serious suit in the corner, holding a paper cup Starbucks. Being intolerably unamused, roared the rotund gentleman to thigh slaps and raw throat cackles.
Come on, Donny.
He thinks to himself.
Wrangled crowds of more than 100,000, you can handle these political relics.
As he spies Elon stood behind the desk, beaming over him, he gives a relieved smile in return.
At least I'll have someone who speaks business, less government.
He thinks as he walks over to shake his hand, but another visitor draws his eye at the back of the room.
Please, no.
He finds the double-breasted blazer raising an ornate cup off the saucer up to his diseased, multicoloured teeth.
Fuck, that Ponzi Brit who doubtless wants America back as a colony got the invite too. Nigel fucktard.
Thank you all for making this celebration.
Elon announces.
Stephen here will be taking confidential, unhackable, handwritten minutes, copies of which will serve as insurance for all of us. So if you haven't left your phones outside, do so now. Donald.
He adds, giving a supercilious stare.
Well, what?
Donny queries. You could have Vladimir on the phone for all we know, Donald, roared another gentleman sat on the couch to appreciative applause.
I'll be reviewing those notes, Stephen.
Staring at Elon in disbelief, a word swims around Donny's brain so sharply he feels sure it's escaping his lips.
Cunt.
Again and again as he walks back over to the door, spies the bowl full of all but one phone, which is in the hand of an elderly woman, probably a wife, who was scrolling through it at light speed until he appeared. Donny rolls his eyes, then turns back to the face of Nigel, who tuts and reveals his phone from his breast pocket too.
Cunt. Beckham, where's J.D. Vance?
Donny says, searching while walking back towards his desk, trying to disguise it as a cough.
Thank you, esteemed gentlemen.
Elon starts again.
Thank you, Elon. I'll take it from here.
Donny interrupts.
Folks, let's get right down to it. Fake news, it's everywhere. We've used it to our advantage, sure, but the point is clear. If we can use it, so can the bad guys. We're talking foreign nations, big corporations like Amazon, and yes, even those Bond villains. With the media in shambles, what's stopping someone from spreading a rumor about a Chinese nuke? Even if it's fake, the panic and economic crash would be catastrophic. Now, I know Putin and Elon played their parts, but listen, this is my last term. I've got no more political ambition. I want to fix this with strong legislation that'll long outlast me. Believe me, we're going to make it happen.
He finished finally taking a seat to soak up the cheers, but they don't come. There's a lull.
Did I say that out loud, or was it like when you thought I called Nigel a cunt?
Only Nigel laughs. Everyone else is looking at Elon.
Come on, Elon.
Donny appeals.
Haven't you lost 40% of your advertising revenue on Twitter because of fake news?
Look, that's the estimate, but here's the reality. The folks still on it. They're really into it. If I start cutting out controversial news, I'd lose their engagement. It would seem like I'm stifling free speech, and that's not what we're about. Free speech is crucial, even if it's messy sometimes.
Elon confessed, barely looking up at the room.
It's not free speech, Elon.
Donny pointed.
It's fake news. They are different, even in the world of Twitter.
It's Colex now.
We don't care how you choose to identify, Elon. Nigel raises up his mug and winks. You'll always be Twitter to us. The whole room is in uproar whilst Elon looks out from beneath his brow, plotting a despicable end for them all. When it stops, the rotund Republican speaks up again. We live in the land of the free, Donald. People must be allowed free speech.
Hear, hear.
Elon's head raises.
We don't live in a free land. I'm sorry, what was your name again?
The man looks preposterized and flaps. Duke Buchan.
Oh yes, of the RNC. Where's Laura?
She wouldn't find this agreeable.
Look at this, folks. My own daughter-in-law can't even speak freely here. And don't worry, we'll talk about women's rights too. But right now, we don't have real freedom. We never have. Pretending we do just makes the free speech problem even harder to see. Elon, if you're being honest, those woke wonkers can't get consequence-free speech on Twitter either. I've seen it myself.
Insects and neither do we.
It's my free speech. I'll call it what I like.
Fucking snowflake, Nigel added, hiding a smile behind the rim of his mug.
You'll be sticking a new pronoun on it next?
Donny continued.
We don't believe in your right to do that. The point is, we're not free from taxes.
There's a laugh which Donny tries to cut off before being interrupted by Elon again.
Talk about being woke. What about you? What next barred you?
Twitter, Elon. You can't dead name yourself.
Donny spat.
You cancelled X.
Elon went on as if there was nothing said.
Sticking out your bottom lip and something enough to create your own rubbish platform. I had to restore balance.
Yes, by driving away nearly half your users. That's good business and good balance. Now stop offering your opinion while I'm attacking you.
Fired Donny, quick to cut him off again.
This is the deal. We're not free to steal whatever we want. We're not even free from gun violence, viruses, or chores. We're not free to be terrorists, brazen foreigners, or whoever we want. We can't just live wherever we like. I could not move to a troubled migrant neighborhood without risking my life, and they could not move to my estate either. We're not free to kill, commit incest, or break any law. And how do we know this? Only because the thoughts of someone dead were written down and called a law, a speech that limits our own freedom to protect everyone's freedom. We can't tell lies in a court of law.
You seem to be dancing around a sore subject of your own freedom, Donald. The rest of the room chuckled whilst Duke pulled himself forward on the couch to look at him gravely.
I want this problem settled, and believe me, the rest of media will feel you are paying to Elon. Without controlling fake news, we won't even have enough free will to vote in what we believe. Let's be honest, as we have demonstrated, forcing half the country to vote for us isn't difficult with personal data marketing. At least 1 million Democratic voters proved that by voting Republican out of anger or fear. I don't for a second believe they voted because they preferred me. I'm honest enough to know how unpopular I am. Many voted against their general support of abortions, their right to live here, their right to free education, free energy, free identity, or even, if I am to tariff China, free capitalism. They voted for me because they thought New York had become a cesspit, which it hasn't. Through fear, the so-called free speech has incited fear that has robbed millions of their free will. And I'm sure the revenue from X's marketing algorithm will back that up.
I'll support it.
Elon raised his shoulders up and pursed his lips.
If I can choose the person to lead it.
Fine, but it can't be you.
It wasn't going to be.
Elon moaned. You'll make more of a difference on day one than the Labour Party could have managed, eh? Nigel joked to no laughter, raising his cup and winking once again, then stepping forward for his moment in the limelight. I myself saw that whilst being lorded over by the EU courts, even a Prime Minister couldn't rid us of the non-English speaking darkies, or Mexicans as I believe you call them. So, chapter 1 of my struggle was to separate.
Thank you, Elon.
Donny cut the Brit off, who nevertheless seemed pleased with his contribution and immediately stepped back to his place at the back of the room.
On to abortion rights.
Donald, fake news. The mere idea of it helped the Republican Party win the treble. Michael, also from the RNC, now piped up from the other couch. This isn't about you. It's about the Republican Party staying in power.
Whoa, what? You can't seriously be endorsing fake news after all the complaints you have me make about it.
You fell for a stolen election, Donald. That's how powerful it is. We need to control it, taint it so that Democrats stay away from it while their supporters are flooded with it. There was a murmur of support from around the room.
Our appeal isn't in fake news.
Donny cried, trying to keep a note of stress out of his voice.
It's anti-establishment. It's a difference from normal status quo politics, isn't it?
He said, feeling a familiar proud swell of emotion in his heart. That'll fade, Mr. President, Nigel offered his encouragement. You're a bit behind us, but, in time, you're on track to have politics become, at best, a tiring insignificance, and at worst, a fact of life in the same way cancer treatments are. Ignore him. Populism is your appeal, not ours, Donald. Know your place. Now, what about abortion rights? Evangelicals make up the base of our support. Always have. So, we've got to ban abortion, or else we'll be history.
And it makes geopolitical sense too.
Elon chimed in.
Our birth rates are falling among the well-off and well-educated. If we are not careful, we will be outbred by immigrants.
Well, actually, that brings me on to my solution.
Johnny tried to make himself heard over the hears of the room.
We are
He raised his voice.
top-heavy on pensioners. People born today won't be contributing to the economy for at least 16 years, probably 25. I believe Europe has the same problem.
He glanced over to Nigel. England, dear boy. He raised his cup and winks once more.
Leave your chosen identity at the door, Nigel.
Elon quipped to roars from around the room. Donny's head fell into his hands. Picking up his brains from the desk, he started again.
Banning abortions won't solve the worker crisis. There's going to be fewer jobs thanks to robotics and AI when they grow up anyway. We need new industries, new guaranteed jobs. And we need to fill them right now to start preparing for a whole new economy that has hardly any job, equally fewer workers, and a pension pot draining both of them, unless Kennedy bans all the drugs that are keeping the geriatrics alive well into the future. We need to prepare. We need to prop up the economy today. The answer might actually be more.
He dropped his voice.
Legal immigrants.
Welcome to the real world, Mr. President. Michael responded magnanimously. But xenophobia is also a real problem, and one which we can exploit, whilst also backing religious views keeps us relevant to the love thy neighbour do-gooders who aren't. Let's think practically here, Donald, Michael finished.
You can't be serious. I can't be a political breath of fresh air if all I'm doing is protecting the Republican Party and not actually making any changes to the establishment.
Donny sputtered, his hand quivering with rage in midair as he pointed out the window towards Congress.
We need to restructure our economy for the lack of jobs, the abundance of products combating a population of people without income. We need to talk about relieving the stress off of couples, so they might actually be more inclined to think about families rather than their own career. Has anyone considered grants on child-minding services, extending maternity and paternity leave with full pay, so it's more appealing for parents to have kids without sacrificing their own lives in the first place?
You know, as well as I do, that'd cost too much, and I'm not giving people the option to work from home either.
Elon stepped forward and loomed over Donny in his seat.
Why working from home is cheaper for you, isn't it? No buildings, no aircon, no internet, plus more babies. As government, should we be thinking about the millions of people and not about the few thousand companies? Even I see we can't have an economy where huge companies make trillions selling things while employing virtually nobody. There will be no customers to buy anything.
What if corporations paid the value of every job lost to a computer into the government, to be distributed as universal basic income or tax cuts? Spoke up a small, unknown man, half hiding behind his manila folder. Donny gave Diego a fleeting look, who then took the skinny man politely to the door and quietly saw him through it.
This is America.
Elon went on.
Companies run life here, and companies running the government is where we're heading. I won't know what employees are doing, and I don't like that.
I suppose you know what they're all doing now, do you?
Elon suddenly stepped into Donny's personal space, leaned over his chair and spoke with precision.
If they're in work, I can go find out what they do for me, Trump. You can't build cars from home.
As the old man felt his heart hammer and his urge to fight off light bursting through his face, Elon pursed his lips and fired a quick kiss onto Donny's sweaty forehead. As Elon then backed away, Donny saw the rest of the room staring at him gravely, while Nigel sipped his tea at the back with an enormous yellow smile on his face.
If he winks,
Donny thought.
I am literally going to have Diego blow his brains out.
I am just here to be bankrupted.
Elon asked the room as plausibly as he could, to replies of fierce denial.
You're only here to make sure no one bankrupts you. I hope your AI robots don't one day want to work from home.
Donny said to his shoes as Elon took another large stride forward, fists clenched, causing Donny to jump out of his chair, stumbling in his declining age and raising his hands in surrender.
X made you what you are, Trump. Don't forget who filled the throne.
He smiled and stepped back to the window, leaning casually against the frame. Let's everyone just calm down, Duke said to the room as Donny panted.
Yes,
Donny tried to continue.
let's be honest, we can quietly drop some policies and claim red tape got in the way. But I promise deportations, and I know the whole issue of illegal immigrants is that we don't know about them, so it's going to cost us.
We'll get the numbers, Mr. President, Michael spoke up. As we discussed, you'll look like a hero.
I don't want to do it that way. Why don't we flip it and get them drilling? There's oil underneath us, not enough Americans prepared to drill for it. I bet the Mexicans will take any job we give them, and it'll be a double boost to our economy if they're drilling our oil reserves legally.
Donny announced triumphantly.
I'll support you if you leave the green industries alone and train more Americans to boost it.
Elon spoke softly, looking out the window.
Aren't you South African?
Donny laughed, but the room never joined him.
Chose to live in America, though.
You can't change your identity, Musk. Donny refused to look around at the insufferable Brit.
If you make enough money, it turns out you can, whether some people think you're bad for the country or not.
Elon said calmly, channeling his inner Blofeld whilst eyeballing a potential bullet through Nigel's forehead.
Hey, listen here.
Donny took a deep breath and began tapping the desk.
I'm the one who was made president. I'm the one they voted for. We drill, baby drill. No green industries. You can keep the market for yourself.
I don't want the market to myself. Nobody's interested.
Elon stared idly, rubbing his thumb and forefingers together patiently.
We do both green and oil.
He strode to stand over the front of Donny's desk, arms raised like Jesus on the cross, the room behind him as though they were his troops.
You brought us all in. We're your customers shopping from the shelves of Trump. And in this country, the customer is always right. So you'll make this happen.
It's not going to happen. Not on my watch.
Donny fumed, his voice breaking up an octave.
Why?
Donald, honey, Duke placed an arm over the shoulder of the elder gentleman next to him. Your appeal wasn't in oil. It was for nationalism, abortions, tariffs, and deportations. That was the powerful mandate we were set. You have to deport, baby, deport.
Deport illegal immigrants. How in God's name?
Donny snapped, one hand waving wildly whilst the other twitched violently in his trouser pocket.
We don't know where they are. Otherwise, they wouldn't be fucking illegal. It's going to cost me billions. Only for CNN to keep putting that fucking chart up saying how fucking ineffective it is, which I'll already fucking know. That's always been the government's blame, not immigrants' fault.
I wasn't expecting so much cussing. A reverend raised his hand while laying back on the couch, shoulders tucked in behind two red-faced aging bulls. Neither was I. Joined in a small but strong gentleman with sharp features and a receding hairline stood at the back next to Farage. Can we tone it down? Who are you, sorry? Asked the reverend. National Rifle Association, the balding man replied. Donald, Michael spoke up again.
You can go fuck yourselves, frankly.
Donny kicked the desk and the board underneath it disappeared, throwing pens, paper, phones and trinkets into a slide towards Donny's frantic jazz hands as the whole desk tipped towards the corner. Elon walked back towards his place at the window frame again. Mr. President, Michael continued, we are also here to tell you the tariffs you want to implement will be mild, and you will aggressively search for alternative imports.
I'll need that money for the fucking deportations.
Yes, but the money comes out of American business pockets. Trust me, I know the public. Michael stood up and spoke with effortless command. They'll be far happier seeing you waste our own billions to find immigrants than to see the price of their goods go up when you artificially raise the costs or eliminate the competition.
We need to raise money and get as many people working as possible. Is that so much to ask?
Donny fell back and sat on his own windowsill. I told you, don't worry. We'll bail you out, Michael said patiently. When, in 3 years, the deportation program has completely failed, we'll throw the net wider and review some legal immigrants. Say they were processed incorrectly, provided false information. Send them packing to get your numbers, eh? The whole room nodded regretfully.
Hang on.
Elon stood up straight.
I need legals. I thought we needed as many people as possible in work, paying taxes, buying in our economy. Remember, those are exactly the reasons their native countries would have wanted to keep them. So they must have been pretty sharp to get away and then be accepted here.
Fucking liberal, Farage muttered loudly while looking the other way.
You're all fucking snowflakes, too scared to face the reality and address the issue.
Donny burst out before Elon could stop his bottom lip wobbling.
You need to be dynamic, brutal, and ruthless in business, not a conservationist. If you can pivot to take any advantage, to burn the competition at any point, you always should. Steal their resources, squeeze your costs or productivity, and as a last resort, find loopholes. Why don't we try a bit of business acumen? Take over the immigration up and down lines, buy these countries, and once they're in our control, we'll basically be allowing legitimate Americans in problem solve. Look, folks, I know what I'm doing. If there's nothing else you'd like me to be your lapdog for,
Elon and Farage tried to stop themselves laughing.
I'm going to run it my way.
This isn't your business, Donny. Michael smiled as might a fond grandfather. This isn't your country. It belongs to the GOP now. We're built on Christianity and guns. We always look after those first. And we've got the best chance in a generation to do it.
You're right. I wouldn't want to be an immigrant against Christianity and guns. We all know how many commandments don't apply when you're trying to get into heaven using their names.
You flippin' fair-fished, the Reverend suddenly jumped up. Are you fucking woke? The NRA man unbuttoned his blazer. I don't care what you say you are. I've always called people like you fascist, and claiming you're a faggot populist means nothing to me, Nazi. As Nigel fist pumped the air behind him.
I'll blow your goddamn head off.
Donny leaned over his crippled desk. All right, Michael raised his voice, whilst Duke then slammed the palm of his hand down on the table repeatedly, shouting, "Quiet!" until there was only him and the rattling lamp making any noise at all. Thank you, Duke. Mr. President, Michael straightened his suit. I think you've forgotten where you stand. The GOP has the representatives, Senate, and the White House. You are a small part of our plans to take this country back to its roots of puritanical freedom. You'll be allowed some tariffs, Donald. Duke butted in. But we can't have immigrants. We can't have the rest of the world teaching our kids their fucking culture. Sorry, Reverend. We've got to be hard on criminals. An eye for an eye. Quicker death to all lawbreakers. That'll save a few $1 million. The Bible says there are men and women, Donny, Michael continued. And as my namesake Palin eloquently put it, every sperm is sacred. He doesn't say every egg is sacred because God decreed it's a man's choice. This is why we need you in the White House. This is why having control of all three is so important. You say the great American birth rate is collapsing. Well, let faith fix it. No more LGBTQRSTR swankers. Every life that can be born is a gift. Except the LGBTQTs aren't gifts. They're criminals, right? Or does Monty Python not say that? Farage's finger was raised in the air when the NRA man grabbed him and threw him against a wall that turned into a door. Farage's teeth flew up into the NRA man's face, scalding him as they stumbled around outside. Farage looked as though he was about to sneeze viciously, whilst the angry man screamed over the sound of his own jingling spurs, repeatedly slamming into the carpet. Donny motioned for the secretary to close the door behind them.
So we'll combat the country's slip into mediocrity by following the geopolitical and economic lessons of the Middle Eastern Gospels, shall we?
Sir, it's time for your call, his secretary said politely as they closed the door, on a vision of Farage trying to hold himself up straight whilst the teeth of the NRA man bared themselves toward his nose.
Thank you. Where was I?
You were about to ask for forgiveness, I believe, my son.
So, are we supposed to give our folks a copy of the Bible, the very hungry caterpillar, and hope they'll fix our country?
And he sat back down in his chair and noticed Elon was eyeing it almost sexually. It's not everyone, only those not adhering to the Lord's words more than the law already, he went on. You people always said education was not the enemy of religion. Well, now look. We've got woke spinsters focusing more on their career than family values.
Sounds like me and Donald.
Elon muttered. Well, I wasn't going to say so, but yes. Feel lucky we're working with you infidels because you're popular and we need that. We need your media influence to get us back to where we were, and you, therefore, have your uses. But you can't do anything without us.
The media overload was mainly Russian influence trying to divide us, weaken our country's ideals, stoke nationalism, so we separate ourselves from our diplomatic allies and each other.
Elon interjected matter-of-factly.
Or China?
Donny added.
No.
Elon refuted fatly. Doesn't matter, Duke went on. We feel it's been working in our favor, and now's the time. We'll make it worth your while. Pardons, tax breaks, and you can drill. You can raise a few tariffs, but your primary concern is getting rid of this outsider influence upon our Christian country for us. To which the Reverend nodded solemnly.
Would you like me to bend over as well for you, Duke?
Donny said over the tips of his fingers. I bet you'd love that, wouldn't you, gay boy? Duke replied without hesitation.
Right.
Donny finished exasperated.
Can you all please leave my fucking office? I've actually got an important call with Putin to make.
It's okay, Mr. President. We'll be able to hear him laughing from outside. Duke bit down on his fist, trying to feign not laughing, while no other in the room made any such effort. Even as they fouled out roaring at private jokes between one another, just as Donny put the phone to his ear. Donny, is that you? He heard in a thick Russian accent.
Go inject some more flying cars into Project 2025, reprobates. No, not you, Vladdy baby. Go on, get out. All of you, go fuck yourselves.
He waved them out, cleared his throat, and turned to the phone. You go inject some bleach for that cough. He cried out from deep within the crush of suits filing out whilst Donny whispered into the phone.
Yes, everything's fine. Honestly, it's nothing. Are you okay, hon?